I don't know about you, but I'm having a hard time believing that Christmas is a week away. In fact, last night I was frantically looking on my phone and ordering last-minute Christmas gifts. And then I'm remembering the spend less part of this, Advent conspiracy. But it didn't matter because I spent it anyhow. So this time of Advent is a time for us to be reflective and a time for us to wait in anticipation, a time for us to really think about what it means for us that Christ came into this world. But every year, it goes faster and faster and faster. And every year, it seems I have less time to ponder that, to anticipate that, to think about what does it really mean for us that Jesus Christ, that God gave God's only Son into this world for us, for me. And so we're looking at this Advent conspiracy. And Advent conspiracy is really a way of living our lives as followers of Jesus Christ. It's a change of how we live, how we worship. We are called to worship God fully. That's the first part of Advent conspiracy. The first part is to get our worship right. Now, once we get our worship right, then everything else will fall into place. Worshiping God means that we don't look at all of the other things that could possibly take our attention away, that we make an intentional commitment to worship the God who created us and made us unique and made us special. The second one is to spend less, as I just admitted that I can't be doing because I can't. Spending less doesn't mean that we don't spend anything at all. Spending less simply means that we're more mindful of what we spend, that we think about, do I really need these things or do I want them? And if I want them, what is that going to cause to have happen in my life that, maybe is it greed that I'm doing this? What is the reason that I'm wanting these kinds of things? What God am I worshiping if I choose to buy all the things that I want and not just the things that I need? And the last week was about giving more. It sounds contradictory that we spend less, yet we give more. But the giving more isn't about giving more stuff. Giving more is about giving of ourselves more to other people. It is the gift of presence. Just as God gave the greatest gift of presence to us and promises to be present with us every day of our lives, we too are asked to give the gift of presence of ourselves. It simply means that we take a look at how can I spend time and build a better relationship with my spouse? How can I spend time and build a better relationship with my children? How can I spend time and build a better relationship with my neighbors, my coworkers, the people around me? How can relationships help me? And once again, if we get our worship right, then relationships will fall into place as well. And today we look at the last part of it. The last part of Advent conspiracy is to love all. Now, I want to point this out to you. I want to make this very clear. It doesn't say love more, right? It doesn't say love more. It says to love all, okay? We take a look at love, and we look at love as an emotion. And when we look at love as an emotion, I'll be the first one to admit, if we're looking at love from an earthly point of view, from our point of view, from a human point of view, I cannot love everybody. I don't even want to, from our point of view, right? But we are talking about loving all from God's point of view. And here's the deal. Loving all is not an emotion. Loving all is an action. You see, that's what biblical love is all about. What does John 3:16 say? For God, the world, that he gave his only Son. He sent his only son. He acted upon, right? It wasn't passive. God acted upon because God knew that we couldn't do it on our own. And so God loved all of us by sending God's only son into this world. And that love came in many odd ways, because their expectations were that when the Messiah came, the Messiah would be born in where? Where would the Messiah be born? In a palace, to a king. The Messiah would not be born to parents in poverty. Our reading today about Joseph. Joseph was a good man, but Joseph didn't have a lot to offer. In fact, the reading for today is speaking about how Joseph has to reconcile the fact that Mary is pregnant and not by him. He had every right to dismiss her. He had every right to dismiss her. And in fact, in that culture, because she was pregnant by a different man, and they were already engaged, so to speak, but because she was pregnant by a different man, he not only could dismiss her, but what else could happen to her? She could be put to death. She could be put to death, because this is a very serious thing. Very serious thing. And yet Joseph heard. And Joseph acted upon what he heard, right? He wasn't passive about it. Joseph acted upon what he heard. Joseph played a huge part in the birth of Jesus Christ, because we'll see as the weeks go on, Joseph protected his family. Joseph kept his family safe. Joseph took his family to Bethlehem, and granted, there was no place for them to be born. Now, if the Messiah was to be born of a king, but ended up being born of a couple who really didn't have a whole lot of money, the second thing is, no one expected the Messiah to be born in a manger. Now, I've said this over and over. I probably said it for 15 of the 21 years I've been here. We pretty up the manger. We clean it up, and we make it smell good, right? If you look at pictures, take a look at pictures on Christmas cards. The manger looks nice, doesn't it? And the animals are just quietly laying there, looking at the baby. That was not how it was. You know, the manger that Jesus lay in, we make it a nice crib, right? It was a feeding trough. Jesus was laid in a feeding trough. If you ever see one, it's a cement feeding trough. That's what his bed was. And those animals were probably not appreciating this woman giving birth right there and making a lot of noise. They weren't quiet, and that place smelled. So the Messiah came into the world not at all like was expected. But you know what? God doesn't come the way we expect it, the way we want. God comes in the way that we need. God comes in the way that we need, not in the way that we want. God comes to us in the form of a baby born in a manger in a stinky stall with animals that are making noises and moving around and liveliness, and comes to a young couple who are poor, but who love Jesus with everything that they have, and who are faithful to God by saying that they will name him Jesus. See, that's another thing. That culture is one where you name your first boy, especially your first boy, is named a family name. Should have been named Joseph, or son of Joseph, if nothing else. But they loved enough to name him Jesus, because that's what God wanted. You see, loving all sometimes is a sacrificial love. Loving all is an act of worship. Because if we look at Jesus, and if we read what Jesus says, Jesus and how Jesus acted in love, he acted for the outcast, the marginalized. He acted for the ones who needed him the most and the ones who were being ignored. They were being treated as the least. Matthew 25 talks a bit about how we are to love in action. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was homeless, you gave me a place to stay. When I was in prison, you came and visited me. You see, that's what love all means. Again, it's not love more, it's love all. As Christ followers, it is what we are called to do. Advent Conspiracy is teaching us that when we get our worship right, when we worship God fully, the other things will fall into place because we will always be asking the question, how am I better able to show the world that I'm a follower of Jesus Christ? Now, I'm sitting with my phone last night, spending more. But I also know this, that God forgives me. I told God this would be the last Christmas I do it. Don't we make bargains with God? But God calls us to love all. And loving all means that we give food to the hungry. We give clothing to the homeless. We give shelter. We make sure that there are these kinds of places. When we love all, we are doing exactly what God wants us to do. Let me share some examples of how you can love all. The first one, donate the money you save from spending less. Invite someone to church with you this week. Share a meal together after. And look at that. Invite someone to church this week. It doesn't say go out on the street and find a homeless person and invite them to church, right? Invite your neighbor, invite your coworker, invite anyone to church. Be the person with an extra dose of patience this week. Listen well to others and offer grace. Find out what local serving opportunities there are and how you can get involved. And I want to tell you that, oh, wow, we have done really good things here. I have to say that. 1,500 boxes and Reva's sitting here, and she purchased every mashed potato box that she could find in the city of Columbus. But we sent 1,500 boxes of mashed potatoes. We gave for a Lutheran Social Services Thankful Holiday. And I believe this is accurate, we gave to NYAP, and that's gifts for foster children so that they can have a good Christmas. And we gave 30 gifts, right? Reva, so it's 30 plus gifts for families so that these foster children could have a good Christmas. But there are over 900 children in the system. Over 900 children in the system. But it says to love all. And every drop in the bucket helps. We may look at that and go, wow, we really didn't do anything. We did a lot. We did a lot. And we do every little bit that we can do to help out. Pray for families around the world. Find out a local organization to volunteer. Go with your family, friends, or small group, then talk about the experience and see what you learned. Here's an important one. In order for Advent Conspiracy to happen all year long, find a place where you can volunteer and do it monthly. Become a volunteer that is there on a regular basis. And if there are clients there, guess what you're doing? You're also building relationships. You're also giving more of yourself. All right? One of my favorite poems at Christmas is called The Work of Christmas, written by Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman is an African-American theologian, educator, and civil rights leader. The Work of Christmas. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and the princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the people, to make music in the heart. This Advent, we've looked at Advent Conspiracy and how we might change to become the followers of Jesus Christ that we are called to be. The work of Advent, the work of Christmas, is just beginning. Amen.